Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose. And last week on Friday, Sony confirmed a very, we're going to call it an interesting, maybe even a baffling release. I don't know. It was expected, but it's also a little strange, and especially after you actually see it. So yeah, fans are pretty upset over the situation, and we're going to talk about that today and whether or not fans should be upset. Then also, another big game that a lot of people missed out on this year might be heading to subscription services sometime here soon. And yes, I said that as in plural. Both PlayStation and Xbox fans might be happy to have another big inclusion here soon. Before we get started though, do make sure to subscribe and ring that bell. That way every time I post a new video, which is every Monday through Friday, it'll be delivered directly to your device. It's a great way to stay up to date with your daily gaming news dose, so don't forget to hit those buttons. With that said though, let's go start this week off with some fun because it's now officially the holiday season, and what that means is great deals everywhere you look. Honestly, it's not even really so much Black Friday anymore, that there's really just major deals for weeks on end, and that started over the weekend. I'd recommend following somebody like Wario on Twitter because he posts a ton of discounted items, and we've already seen some great discounts. Sonic Superstars has already been marked down to just $35, and I mean, this is a game that's only been out for a month, so that is a real bargain this early on. Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope is another deal that stands out because it's going for just $15. I know a lot of people have been holding out for that game specifically, and it seems like now might be the best time to buy in. It's definitely a good game and more than worth the asking price of $15. Then the Metal Gear Solid Collection is another deal that's been circulating. It's another brand new game, and it's already going for $40. Now, to be fair, I think that it probably should have been that price in the first place, at max, honestly. But the best discount here that I've seen so far is for the Xbox Series X. If you're looking to buy a new console this holiday, Microsoft is marking it down by $50 across the board, so you can pick it up for $450 right now. But here's the thing. Certain retailers are going well beyond just that discount. I know Target was offering the Diablo 4 Xbox Series X bundle for $450 with a $75 gift card on top of that. I mean, if you don't already own Diablo 4, which is one of the best games that's released this year, then that's essentially a $200 discount, making it the most attractive Xbox Series X offer to date. I mean, even if you have an Xbox Series X, that's still a very attractive gift option for someone else. And as of this recording, and things can change, but as of this recording, it does appear to still be in stock at Target. If not, though, Best Buy is also offering the Xbox Series X for $450 with a $50 gift card on top of that if you have their membership. I believe that's how it works, but this is honestly a great deal for the Xbox Series X. So just go ahead and let the holiday fun begin because discounts are coming in left and right. Next up here, though, fans got some reassuring news for the upcoming Wonder Woman game. What happened here is that apparently a Monolith Productions job listing emerged online that suggested it will have live service elements, and as you might expect, that wasn't exactly received all that well online. Well, Warner Brothers responded to some of that speculation, and you can see here on IGN where Warner Brothers said, Wonder Woman is a single-player action-adventure game set in a dynamic open world. This third-person experience will allow players to become Diana and introduce an original story set in the DC universe, while also featuring the Nemesis system. Wonder Woman is not being designed as a live service, a Warner Brothers spokesperson said. So I hope they stay true to the word here, because if so, this will be good news for anybody who's looking forward to the upcoming Wonder Woman game. I mean, it just kind of feels like by this point, gamers are increasingly cautious over anything with the label live service games, because there's been so many poor implementations, and I think without a more definitive description, you don't really want that label attached to your game until, at the very least, you can fully explain to gamers what your plans are and what the game actually is. And that's kind of the thing here. We don't really know much about this new Wonder Woman game, and the last thing that it needs is to have a negative impression from gamers based on a live service label. Okay, now speaking of licensed games, here's something really interesting that popped up over the weekend because everybody wants to know what Sony has planned for next year in 2024 because so far, we really don't know anything about their first-party lineup. Now, we know a couple third-party exclusives they have, but what about their first-party studios? When are they going to release their next game? Now, we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next topic as well, because they did confirm one kind of new game. I don't know. But Wolverine has received a lot of speculation online. Some gamers were hoping that it would arrive next year in 2024, which... I mean, that kind of tells you a lot about the confidence that gamers have for Insomniac. But according to Daniel Richman, you might want to go ahead and pump your brakes on that just a bit here. This was posted up by Insider Gaming where they said, according to a known leaker, Daniel Richman, not only will the upcoming game not be released in 2024, but it will also feature a darker and more violent tone than past games from the studio. So... I can't really speak for everybody else, but I know for me, I feel like that it was very unrealistic to expect Wolverine to release in 2024. I mean, sure, it would have been nice, and if it does, then, that's a great surprise and everything. But realistically, it just doesn't seem all that feasible. Now, I understand that everybody likes to point to how fast Insomniac has been releasing their games, which that is true, but there's a little bit more involved with this situation than what some people are maybe thinking about. Spider-Man 2017, Miles Morales, and Spider-Man 2 all released within 3 years apart, and then you had Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and that released back in 2021. But you also have to realize that Miles Morales was a smaller scope game, and on top of that, all of the Spider-Man games are set in the same location. So that is a very important piece of the puzzle here because it does help cut development time down. They don't have to create a completely new locale, whereas in Wolverine, unlike Miles Morales, I imagine that will be a full-scale game, and according to this leak, Wolverine's location will be set in Mandrapore, which is a Southeast Asian city within the Marvel Universe. So with a completely new location and it being a full-scale game, development time should be expected to be longer, and quite honestly, if they manage to release it in 2025 even, that's still pretty impressive all things considered. Now, I'm not entirely sure when they actually started development for Wolverine, but one way or the other, they're keeping their fans entertained on a pretty consistent basis. But yeah, I think 2025 sounds much more realistic than 2024. Okay, so let's go and talk about a PlayStation game that they did confirm, though, and we talked about this the other day on Friday. At the time, this all started out as a leak, but Sony, they have since confirmed the rumors. The Last of Us Part 2 remaster is indeed true, and they released a lot of information and gave us our first glimpse as to what to expect with a brand new trailer. That right there, though, is kind of the issue, because if you look at the trailer, you might not notice a major difference. In fact, side-by-side pictures have since been posted online, and without telling fans which version is which, you might have a difficult time figuring out which is the new remaster and which is the old version. You know that old episode of The Office where Pam gives Creed 2 pictures and tells him corporate wants him to find all of the difference just to kind of keep him distracted? Well, those pictures are the same, and if you didn't know any better here, it almost kind of feels like Sony is doing that with us and The Last of Us Part 2. The differences are so minimal here. The fans they're genuinely frustrated, and you can really see that from the online reaction. Its reveal trailer on YouTube currently has 1.3 million views with 102,000 dislikes compared to 63,000 likes. This is one of their most disliked first-party reveals ever, and the comments are equally as harsh. It's filled with a ton of sarcastic comments poking fun at remastering just a 3-year-old game. At this rate, we'll get a remaster of Spider-Man 2 in 2026, and that's kind of the thing here. At worst, this looks like a cash grab because PlayStation is asking for a $10 upgrade, or at best, it comes off as wasted resources. I mean, out of all of the games that they could have chosen to remaster, and really even on the PS4, Part 2 is one of the last games that needs a remaster treatment. I mean, there's this little game called Bloodborne that could use a 60 frames per second patch. I'm just going to kind of throw that out there. But as for The Last of Us Part 2, it already runs at 60 frames per second on the PS5, and it's also a 1440p up-res game to 4K resolution. So any kind of visual enhancements for Part 2 will be minimal at best. And you're really seeing that in his trailer and pictures. Calling this a remaster might be a little bit of a stretch. I mean, even if you look at other games, there's plenty of other upgraded games this generation that were, just simple updates for free. And you can even argue that they were more significant visual upgrades than this. Whereas Sony, they're asking for $10 for a minimal visual update, and it seemingly hasn't set well for the community, and you can really see that with the reactions. However, I will say this much. While I don't personally think purchasing a visual upgrade for Part 2 makes much sense, there is, however, some bonus content that might make it worthwhile for Part 2 fans. It does have some previously cut levels, as well as an entirely new roguelike game mode. So I think that if you are interested in that extra content, then that's where that $10 upgrade might be a little bit more justified. So do kind of keep in mind that this isn't just a simple visual upgrade and nothing else. There is some bonus content as well. At the same time, though, I think what's really happening here is that Sony is pushing this game out just to kind of pair with the HBO show. We saw this earlier in the year with Part 1. Once that HBO show released, Part 1 saw a pretty significant jump in units sold, and I think that that's what they're kind of hoping for with Part 2. Now, with that said, they might need to go ahead and get a PC port out there as well. But if fans have a positive reaction over Season 2, then they might look for that PS5 version of The Last of Us 2. So, I mean, it does seem bizarre to remaster just a 3-year-old game, but I think that's kind of how they're justifying their resources. Let me know what you all think about this, though. Do you have any interest in the Part 2 remaster or not? All right, now we do have one other thing to go over here because it sounds like a pretty interesting game will be heading over to subscription services sometime here soon, and that's a game that a lot of people missed out on this year, being Immortals of Avium. This is coming from their CEO, who was asked about the possibility of releasing on services such as PlayStation Plus and Xbox Game Pass, and he didn't hold anything back here because he simply said, certainly. Those services give you a wider funnel. More people might engage with the game. That's always good. Yes, we are talking to them about getting the game onto both of those services. We don't have a date yet. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen, though. I mean, so this is a pretty interesting inclusion. I mean, this game is not all that old. It released back in August, and while it hasn't seen a ton of success, there is seemingly some interest in this game. Almost every single time that I include its gameplay on the channel, I always seem to get a few comments that ask what it is, because there is that interest. They just don't really know what it is, and that right there is honestly kind of one of the problems with this game. Immortals of Avium is a fun-looking game, and visually, it looks pretty nice, but it is a new IP that a lot of people just don't know about, and they couldn't have possibly picked a worse time to release it. Games like this needs a slower period to be exposed a little bit more freely. I do believe that if they would have released Immortals of Avium during a slower period for gaming, it may have then seen some more success that way, which interestingly, they now see eye to eye with me on that situation. The CEO here recently did blame its poor sales on a busy launch calendar, because during that same month, there were other big releases such as Baldur's Gate 3, which, I mean, to be fair here, its success did surprise a lot of people, so okay. But there was also Armored Core 6, Sea of Stars, Starfield's Early Access, that's a pretty major one, and there was also Madden on top of that. That's a lot of competition for a brand new IP, and just this year entirely has been pretty hectic, so it's just not really the best year to release a new IP like this. Now, from the sounds of it, though, Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Plus subscribers, they might get a chance to rediscover it here sometime soon. But, if I'm being honest with you all, I even feel like this announcement isn't necessarily the smart thing. I mean, if you think about it, this is the holiday season where a lot of people buy up games. And Immortals of Avium could have been a potential wishlist item, but now that fans know that they're in talks to get it in subscription services, well, a purchase this holiday seems a little bit less enticing now. I don't know. To me, it seems like they've made some odd business decisions, but hopefully it will get some more recognition down the line, because this is a promising studio going forward. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all, how would you rate 2023 in terms of gaming? We've been hearing pretty much all year long about how this is one of the best years ever for gaming, and yeah, based on the results here, a lot of you do agree. 47% of you gave it an A, while 38% gave it a B. So that is extremely impressive, and You know what? I do agree here. It feels like every single month for 2023, there has been some kind of big release, especially if you have multiple platforms. Xbox, they had some good games like Hi-Fi Rush, Starfield, and Forza. PlayStation had games like Final Fantasy 16 and Spider-Man 2. And then Nintendo, they had games like Pikmin 4, Mario, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and that Metroid Prime Remaster. Then, on top of all of that, though, there's been a lot of really good third-party games as well, such as Alan Wake 2 and Baldur's Gate 3. So it's really just been a fun year all around, and I'm going to go ahead and agree with you all and give it an A as well. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.